Welcome back, students. In the scaling up, the first part of the section, you studied about why we are scaling up the reactions using bioreactors and what are the different types of scaling, that is from the laboratory to pilot scale to the industrial scale. And we also saw that how the biological reasons are important for the scaling up. In today's section, we shall deal with the non-biological reasons. The microorganism respond to the environment. And if the environmental conditions are same, that is between your lab scale or the pilot scale and the production scale, if the condition is same, then the cells will respond similarly. The environmental conditions involve both physical and chemical factors. The chemical factors are like pH, substrate concentration, and these can be monitored and controlled at the same level in both the scale. Whether it is in the lab scale or in the commercial scale, these chemical factors, particularly the pH or the substrate concentration, or if you want to add any antifoam, these are all can be monitored. I told you now it is all integrated fermenters what you have. Okay, computer integrated fermenters you have, and it can be easily monitored, and at the same time they can be controlled. Whether it is in the lab scale or in the commercial scale, they can be controlled easily. And also in the non-biological reasons, we have like microorganisms responding to different environmental conditions, that is the pH or the substrate concentration. So that is what I told you. If it is same, then the conditions of the cells will respond similarly and it can be monitored and controlled. For example, you take the oxygen transfer. So this oxygen transfer is a rate limiting step in the aerobic process. So if my organism what I'm using is aerobic, okay, if it is aerobic, so these aerobic organisms require what? They require oxygen. So oxygen is the rate limiting step here, because without oxygen these organisms cannot survive. But there is a problem with this oxygen. Okay, in aerobic bioprocess, due to the low solubility of oxygen in the media, because we know that the microorganism take the oxygen which is dissolved in the liquid, and not like we human beings, we take the oxygen which is present in the air. These organisms have to take the oxygen which is dissolved only in the liquid media. So this oxygen is primarily soluble in water, that is it is very less soluble in water. So this oxygen serves as a major limitation when we use the aerobic microorganism for fermentation process, because the dissolved oxygen concentration is less in the media which contains the aerobic organism, because these oxygen are hardly soluble or primarily they are soluble. So this becomes the rate limiting step. So that is considered as a rate limiting step to the cells. So the volumetric mass transfer coefficient, we will deal again this with mass transfer coefficient in detail. It is represented as KLA. Okay. So this is the mass transfer coefficient, is a crucial step in the design and the operation of the bioreactor scale up. So when you do the scale up, we will have to keep in mind the mass transfer coefficient. That is, what is the mass transfer coefficient we had in the small reactor? We have to have the same mass transfer coefficient even in the bigger reactor. Although we cannot maintain it same, more or less it has to be same. So this factor also becomes important. So this is known as the mass transfer coefficient. So both are the important factor. So when you're using oxygen, oxygen is frankly soluble in water. I mean, in the media what you're using, so it becomes problem to aerobic organisms and it becomes a limiting factor. And also the mass transfer coefficient is a very, very important aspect when you're scaling up your bioreactors, and it is a crucial step and operation and scale up of bioreactors. So when you do the scale up, we have to keep in mind what is the mass transfer coefficient that we have in the small reactor and what that we have in the bigger reactor. They should be more or less, they should be same. So first we do all the things in the laboratory scale. That is, whatever we develop in the lab scale, then it comes to pilot scale. Just for example, suppose we start with a conical flask of capacity of 100 ml. Okay, then we move to 500 ml. Then we can move to 2 liters. Then I can move to 10 liters. But after that, we go for the pilot scale, which may be even more high, which can be 10,000 liters, or it can be 1,000 liters. Okay, it can be 1,000 liters, or it can even be up to 100,000 liters, which is nothing but a commercial scale reactors. 200,000 liters, which is again a commercial scale reactor. Okay, so just look at these numbers: 100 milliliter, 500 milliliter, 2 liter, 10 liter, 1000 liters, 100,000 liters, 2000 liters. So we are going from a lab scale to pilot scale to the commercial industrial scale. So don't you think the operational parameters keep on changing during the scale up process? Obviously, right? Is this all uniform? No, because volume wise they are changing. As I told you, the purpose of the scale up in the pilot plant allows the investigation of the product and the process. That is, your pilot scale is acting as an intermediate scale between the lab scale and the commercial scale. So, what you're doing in a commercial scale, you are doing a large amount of investment, and whatever you are committed to do in the commercial scale should be highly efficient. It should be profitable, and the product should be of highly good quality. Okay, so what it involves the monetary involvement of the process. So only when you are going to scale up in the laboratory and the pilot scale, when the standardization and optimization is done, then you can bring it to the commercial scale. So what will happen? Your investment can come down. Okay, because already everything has been standardized. So naturally, when we go for a high investment, there should be confident on the investor that whatever report we get in the small scale, same should be available even in the bigger scale. Suppose whatever data we have in small scale, okay, I had say some I have n data what I got it in the small scale. So if n is my product, what I got, so simply I cannot multiply my n with any number, okay, and get a result and say that if you use so much amount of your substrate, you will, and so much volume of media, you will get so much of product. We cannot say that. We cannot just multiply and find out that this might be the suitable for large scale. Okay, usually we do know cross multiplying. If this is so much, how much is for this much? We just cross multiply. That cannot be done for the large scale. As the size of the fermentation increases during the scale up, various parameters do not show predictable linear correlationship. That is a major problem in the scaling up, because what we saw in the laboratory scale and pilot scale, particularly pilot scale, is very important because we are completely optimizing every stage. What I want in my commercial scale, I should get it in my pilot scale. It is just the reproducibility we are doing that. But sometimes what happens is the correlationship is a major problem. Certain parameters change, certain parameters remain constant, and some parameters need to be modified, adjusted during the scale up studies. So these are the major problems what we face during the scale up, because the parameters do not sometimes remain same as what we got it in the lab or the pilot scale when we come to the commercial scaling. So how do you scale up then? So that will be our next question, how we are going to scale up. So what, when we come to the physical parameters, what are the concept of the physical parameters which are responsible for scaling up? For example, the power consumption, heat removal rate. These factors can change with the size of the fermenter. We have physical concept, that is the physical property of the broth, media, composition, temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen concentration, oxygen transfer, rate mixing time. They are dependent on your size of your fermenter, particularly if the vessel is geometrically non-similar. That is, if two vessel means your fermenter, if or your bioreactor, if the bioreactors are geometrically non-similar, these changing physical factors, okay, they can in turn affect your chemical environment. So this, any change in this physical concept can change the chemical environment. That is what previously we told also. Okay, like see here, the environmental condition involve both physical and chemical parameters, so they have to respond equally between each other. Otherwise, it is going to change even the chemical parameters. So, this point becomes very important. So, what is this we are telling? What are these physical factors could be? Let us see that. See, geometrically similar and fully baffled fermenters are assumed the same. So your fermenters, whatever you're using, geometrically they should be similar, and they should have what are known as the baffles. Because if you do not have baffle, then there will be vortex formation, as I told you before. But if you have this stirrer and no baffle, this also results in the vortex. For example, see here, this is a fermenter, okay, and here I'm having the baffles here, and here is also baffle. There will be at least 4 to 6 baffles which are present, and this is my impeller. Okay, that is your stirrer. So here what happens? We have the spurger. That is the air is getting spurged into this. Here also we have similarly the air spurger. And here in this fermenter, we do not have the baffles. Only we have the impeller. So what happens? What is the main problem? Vortexing is the main problem. So here what happens is it creates a vortex here. There will be a vortex formation. I told you to remember that the whirlwind or the tornado. So if you have this type of stirrer and no baffle, it will result in the vortex formation. And it can also affect the air bubbles because air bubbles are spurged here. So here what happens is as the air bubbles enter, you can see all the air bubbles will be here. The distance between them is very small. Okay, and here they'll be far away from each other. But that is not the case here. Here the air bubbles will be uniform. What this means? So here the liquid media will be almost equal like this. In the same line they'll be. Whereas here they will be the liquid medium will be like this because of the vortexing. Okay. So the air bubble will have less retention time here because they're close to each other. The retention time is less when you compare to here. Here, these bubbles will be having larger retention time, whereas here the retention time is very short when you compare. Here, the liquid level is almost constant, and here the bubbles will be also will be uniform. So this is the best way and not this. Okay, because you can see the retention time in the fermenter itself is how it is varying, the air bubbles, how they are varying. Okay, here it is less, here it is more, here, whereas here you can see there is a liquid level is almost constant. Here the bubble will be same. That is why we have to use the baffles. That is the importance of the baffles. Next, the microbes are assumed well dispersed in fully turbulent system. That is, turbulent means I told you an example I told you in the previous class when you're going in the flight suddenly if there is a rain or anything lightning suddenly you feel that severe shaking, okay, a vigorous jerk like you feel, okay, like that is it is not a stable system turbulent is. So the microorganism should be well dispersed in a fully turbulent system. That is our fermenters are turbulent. That is because there is lot of stirring happening, air is being spurged into it, impellers are stirring, microorganism, there's lot of biochemical reaction is happening, so they are not stable. So So even under these conditions, your microbes should be well dispersed. Only then the substrates can freely interact with the microorganism and give the product what is needed. Now the parameters influence the liquid behavior of the agitated vessel. So what are the parameters that is influencing the liquid behavior in the agitated fermenter vessel? These are the following parameters. That is the first is the power requirement by the agitator. So all the fermenters will be having the agitator. Power requirement of the agitator with the gas system, rotational speed of the impeller and pumping rate of the impeller all depend on the scaling up. This all is required for the scaling up of your fermenter. Now, you can ask the question, how is this? How is the power is going to affect? the fermenter scaling up. So you all know that most of the power is consumed by what? It is consumed by a agitator. So how much power is required for mild agitation? That is for simple agitation. Then power requirement is about, usually for mild agitation, it is 1 horsepower per cubic meter. Okay, so per cubic meter, this is how much you require, 1 horsepower per cubic meter. That is for mild agitation you require. Now, suppose you do the same thing in a 200 cubic meter reactor or 2000 liter, sorry, 200,000 liters I mean fermenter. Then how much of power is required? It is more. Okay, it will also use up 200 horsepower per cubic meter for huge power, for huge fermenter, that is more power is utilized. So for small fermenter or for small agitator, instead of saying fermenter we'll use the word agitator. For this mild agitating you require only this much of the power, whereas when you're using large scale production scale fermenter, your agitator will consume more power. Suppose say if you're using 200 cubic meter reactor, how much power is utilized? It utilizes also 200 horsepower per cubic meter. So don't you think this power is very high? Yes. Okay. So more power, the more the money. So the more the power you're using for your fermenter, you have to invest more monetary amount. So we need to look into what should be the minimum power requirement in the agitator to get the maximum amount of scaling power. So it means to tell that if you are going to go for a larger scale, for production scale or commercial scale, that time what is happening is the amount of power what is being used is also high. This can add up to your cost of your investment. So as a result, what you have to do is you have to see that how much you can minimize the power usage. What should be the minimum power requirement in the agitator to get maximum amount of scaling up? That becomes an important point. Another important thing is the gas system and non-gas system. Okay, here it is. So suppose this is, I'll draw it and show. Again, you have a fermenter. Yeah, this is the fermenter. Okay, and this is the impeller, and you have an air inlet. Okay, and air outlet. So what we are talking, power requirement for agitation in a gas system and non-gas system, how it reacts. Suppose this is a stirrer. Okay, now when it is stirring like this, when it is going on stirring like this, then naturally power drawn by the agitator will be more. Now here if you have some kind of air that you flow in and air out, then due to the aeration, okay, due to the aeration, what can happen is the power consumption can be lessened here. Okay, now I'll explain it again. See here, suppose this is a stirrer. Okay. Now when it is stirring, when it is going on stirring like this, then naturally the power drawn by the agitator will be more. Now here, if you have some kind of air that you flow in and the air out, then due to aeration, okay, there will be a kind of turbulency, that is some type of instability, the kind of movement of the water. Where is the turbulency? It will happen in the media, that is the liquid media here. And due to this, the power requirement of the stirrer will be less as compared to the ungassed system. So here also we have an impeller, okay, and here also it is stirring, but we don't have that aeration. We don't have this aeration here or not aeration here. So when we compare between the aeration and gas system and non-gas system, gas system is always better because it uses less power because of the presence of the aeration. Because this aeration will create a turbulency, a kind of movement of the water, and due to this power requirement of the stirrer will be less as compared to your ungassed system. This is no, this is yes. Okay, that is the meaning. So here, because I have inlet and outlet air and there is aeration, so what is happening? There results in a turbulency inside the media, and therefore the power requirement will also be less. So you understood about the power requirement for agitation. So agitation means, remember that always there should be uh, what baffles are very important. Okay, see here, they should be geometrically same and they should have the baffles also. And the microbes assumed should be well dispersed in a fully turbulent system. And the power requirement for agitation, what happens? That is, what to say, that if it is, if your agitation is very mild, then mild amount, less amount of power is used. Whereas if your agitation is very high, as when you compare it with the production fermenter, then more power is used up. So you have to scale up things in such a way that maximum amount of power is not used up. And then what did you see? You saw about the difference between the gassed and non-gas system. So it is preferably better to use a gas system because the gas system can induce the turbulency in the liquid media and it can reduce the power requirement. And the next one, we'll see the rotational speed of the impeller. The rotational speed of the stirrer also plays a very important role because as the bubble going out, then if we increase the rotational speed, then one bubble will disintegrate into smaller bubbles. These are all smaller bubbles, and the smaller the bubbles means more the surface area and more the transfer will mass transfer will be. Again, I'll draw it and show you rotational speed. So suppose say this is your fermenter. I have the impeller. Okay, and now what is happening? This is rotating. The rotational speed of your stirrer also plays an important role. Okay, so the rotation speed of your impeller is playing a important role because as the bubble is going out, see from here the bubble are moving, right? These are all your bubbles. Okay, and as they are moving out, so what is happening? Just beneath the impeller is the your spurger, your air per jug, and these are the bubbles. I'll just draw it outside and show. Okay, just think this is the bubble and this is your impeller. Okay, what it does, because of the rotation speed, your bubble will disintegrate. This large bubble will become smaller bubbles. They will disintegrate into smaller bubbles, and smaller the bubble means that is more surface area you get, and more the mass transfer will be. So easily, that is, the air can pass into this, okay, and it can go into the media. So more the rotational speed, your air bubbles or your gas bubbles will be disintegrated into smaller bubbles, which increases the surface area, and it also will increase the mass transfer will be. Now coming to the last one, pumping rate of the impeller. What we mean by the pumping rate? That is, what do you call is that it is the called as the emission rate. It is expressed as capital VVM, small m. So what is this? This stands for volume of air. Okay, volume of air, and this stands for volume of media. This stands for volume of media. So volume of air and volume of media per minute, okay, per minute is known as the VVM. Okay, so it is the volume of air per volume of media per minute is known as VVM. Now, for a particular type of reactors, there are different types of agitators. Okay, that I'm talking about the pumping rate of the impeller. Okay, this pumping rate of impeller is expressed as VVM. VVM stands for volume of air per volume of media per minute. So now you all know that there are different types of reactors and there are different types of agitator. Okay, and for different type of agitator, there are what are known as different Reynolds number. Reynolds is a name of a person. Okay, REYNOLDS, Reynolds number. So there are different type of fermenters or bioreactors. There are different type of agitators, and there are different type number of Reynolds number. Now, what is this Reynolds number is? Reynolds number is that it indicates the flow characteristics of your fluid. How the fluid in your fermenter, okay, how the fluid is flowing inside your fermenter. What is the fluid characteristics? That is noted by the Reynolds number. That defines the Reynolds number is. So this is the pumping rate of the impeller. So the pumping rate of your impeller will vary depending on the different type of reactors, different types of agitators, and therefore the Reynolds number is also different. Because your reactor is different, your impeller is different, or your agitator is different, and the fluid flow characteristics also will be different, and that is known as the Reynolds number. So hopefully this is clear. So these are the physical concept. So I told you that if there is any change in the physical concept, it can directly affect your chemical concept also, because these both are interrelated, and these are very much important for the scaling up of the bioreactors. With this, we shall end today's class.